Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favour upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity, that through the levers of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, that good purposes, the common human life, be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving. A country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the effort of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Members, we commence with the correction of votes and proceedings. We have the votes and proceedings of Monday, December 18th, 2023. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16. In the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of Monday, December 18th, 2023 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honourable members, I have one official report. The official report of Thursday, December 7th, 2023. Thursday, December 7th, 2023. Any corrections, please? In the absence of any corrections, the official report of Thursday, December 7th, 2023 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Now, at the commencement of public business. Yes, Honourable Chipre.
Speaker, yes, at the commencement of public business, may we turn to page 10 and take item 19. Speaker, let me further the item to be taken by the Deputy Minister of Education instead.
Very well. Item 19, motion by the Honourable Deputy Minister for Education. Yes, Honorable Minister, page 10, item 19. That's your motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that this Honorable House approves the sum of 29,514,197,713 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Education for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Yes, Chairman of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion, and in so doing, I would like to present the report of the Education Committee on the estimates of the Ministry of Education. I would like the civil office to capture the entirety of the report as read and proceed to go to the conclusion of the report. Mr. Speaker, establishing an education system that will produce well-balanced individuals with the requisite knowledge, skill, value, aptitude, and attitudes to become functional and productive citizens requires the needed financial, material, and human resources. Unfortunately, some of the agencies under the Ministry of Education responsible for promoting education lack some of the resources to effectively perform this important function, Mr. Speaker. There is an urgent need for the Ministry of Finance to deepen the already existing collaboration with the Ministry of Education and its agencies so as to enable them adequately acquire the needed resources to implement their various programs and activities. Mr. Speaker, in view of the above, the committee recommends to the House to adopt its report and approve the sum of 29,514,197,713 Ghana cedis for the programs and activities of the Ministry of Education for the 2024 financial year. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak to the motion and the report as presented by the chairman of the committee. Mr. Speaker, as for the inadequacy of funds, it runs through all the agencies of the ministry or under the Ministry of Education. But in so doing, Mr. Speaker, we also realized as a first point of discussion that we've discovered that the agencies under the Ministry of Education have not been presenting their annual audit and performance report to the Ministry of Education for onward presentation to Parliament. We, as a committee, therefore directed that all the agencies should do so immediately to the Minister for Education so that he can present them to Parliament so that the committee can see how they are using the funds made available to them. For 7 years now, some of them have not done so, including the Ministry of Education itself. Mr. Speaker, another issue that came up for discussion was the indebtedness of the Ministry of Education to West African Examinations Council. Mr. Speaker, we have been talking about the amount of money owed the West African Examinations Council, because WAEC is finding it very difficult to run its programs and activities. You will realize that as we speak, the results of WASE were released yesterday, but WAEC is still owing examiners, assistant examiners, script checkers, and suppliers of materials that helped WAEC to conduct the examinations for 2023. Mr. Speaker, but interestingly, Ministry of Finance indicated that they do not owe WAEC that the sum of 129,839,720 Ghana cedis, WAEC said they owed. They, as a Ministry of Finance, did not owe that. And that, per their records, they have released all monies to the Ministry of Education. So the committee has directed that the Minister for Finance or his representative, the Minister for Education, and WAEC should meet the committee to resolve the matter. The one who represented the Ministry of Finance at the meeting indicated that for the WASE, they made it part of the amount released for the free SHS. So, on record, they do not owe WAEC any sums of money. So we need to meet the Minister for Education, the Minister or the Ministry for Finance and WAEC to resolve this matter as quickly as possible for us to know where the funds are. Mr. Speaker, we also realize that UNESCO, that is United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, is one agency under the Ministry of Education, and they are housed in an obscure corner in the Ministry of Education. But unfortunately, the piece of land allocated for their office long time ago, Mr. Speaker, I made it known here the other time when we were debating the budget that the land had been sold. The Deputy Minister for Land and Natural Resources vehemently denied it. But at the meeting to discuss the budget, we were told by the Minister for Education, or he confirmed, that the land had been sold and to a private individual, and that he is taking even efforts to retrieve the money, the land for the Ministry of Education, so that UNESCO can take good use of that land. Mr. Speaker, we also discovered that tertiary institutions, especially the universities, which are running distance education programs, and are declaring their IGF. And that is very serious, because we know that they are making a lot of money, and there are thousands and thousands of students who are taking this distance education. But what they declared as IGF is just something you cannot believe. Too small to be true, that is the true IGF. So we have directed GTech to make sure that they come back and then tell us the true picture of the IGF that they make from a distance education. Mr. Speaker, we also discovered that non-payment of utility bills at the senior high schools is creating a problem for managers or headmasters and headmistresses of senior high schools. And there is a need for that to be corrected. Much as we know there's a big challenge in getting funds, these facilities should be made available to students at all times. Then, Mr. Speaker, there is this gallop issue of $1.2 million which we raised some time ago. The minister pledged that that money was going to be used for rehabilitation of basic school infrastructure throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, none of this rehabilitation work has taken place. So we have asked the minister to come to the committee and also explain to us the processes that the projects are going through, so that we know where that money has been used or not used so far. So, Mr. Speaker, we appreciate the fact that times are hard, but education needs more attention than it is receiving now. Because if you go to the senior high schools, and quite a large number of projects have been abandoned for lack of funds to pay the contractors. And we feel strongly that something must be done about it so that money is made available, especially to get funds. Because the whole of this quarter, no money has been released to get funds to pay contractors. And you, Mr. Speaker, you know the challenges the contractors are facing. So there's the need for the Ministry of Finance to do something about it, release funds to get funds so that they can pay the contractors who can also enjoy the Christmas more. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support the motion. Mr. Speaker, really, if we want individuals to be functional and productive citizens for the total development and democratic advancement of the nation, then attention to education is critical. It is in this vein that the 2023 we approved some 22.9 billion Ghana cedis for the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, as at the end of September, some 18.5 billion have been released and expended. Mr. Speaker, that constitutes about 72% of the total amount approved. Mr. Speaker, 2023, some of the programs that were achieved were 10,000 teachers were trained to become professional in teaching English, mathematics, and science. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this is to improve our ratio of science and humanities at the tertiary institution. In fact, students at the basic level, at the secondary level, developing affinity for science and mathematics is key in shoring up the numbers at the tertiary level. So when teachers become professional and able to practical the teaching of science and mathematics, it means we'll be able to get the 60-40 science, technical, engineering, mathematics ratio as against the humanities. Mr. Speaker, there were ICT hands-on mobile projects also to equip primary schools with practical ICT skills. And we all know why we should do that at the tender age of our children. Mr. Speaker, feeding grants for 7,500 students for special schools was also achieved. For BEC registration examination, some 471,277 students were supported. Learning grants to 10,579 students was also achieved. And some heads of schools were trained in management and managing the schools that they had. And about 10,579 head teachers were trained for that purpose. Mr. Speaker, it is all to let head teachers manage the school such that it will be good for the learning and then the teaching outcomes. Mr. Speaker, some 51,508 furniture was also provided. Some 9.5 million basic school textbooks were also provided. And copies of teachers' guide, some 273,075 copies were provided. Mr. Speaker, there were teaching in differentiated approach. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of that, money spent on the purpose of that was to ensure that children's learning abilities in terms of their needs and their challenges are met. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, we're getting good outcomes from the learning outcomes that we are achieving. Mr. Speaker, this year, about 29.5 billion have been approved for the Ministry of Education. Some 28.8% increment over that of 2023. Our expectation, Mr. Speaker, in this case is that the releases should be forthcoming, and when they are forthcoming, we believe strongly that achievement at those levels will be able to come to the fore. Mr. Speaker, also there was tremendous achievement in SHS and TVET free education. Mr. Speaker, for the first year students, we spent money on 448,641 students. For the 2023 academic year, 1,320,976 students had free senior high and TVET education. Mr. Speaker, I believe strongly that with this 29.5 billion approved, if we approve it, Mr. Speaker, Minister of Education should be able to get us the quality teaching outcomes and then the quality learning outcomes. I therefore support the motion and urge the House to do same. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion for the approval of the budget for the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, I want to draw our attention to paragraph 9.3. The report states that there was revision of the budgetary allocation without approval. And Mr. Speaker, if you read further, you realize that in 2023, even though this House approved for the Ministry of Education to spend 22 billion cedis, they ended up spending over 25 billion. Mr. Speaker, this is a worrying trend. And I wonder how a ministry will decide to go over and above the ceiling approved in this House. The report says that they claim that they sought approval from the Ministry of Finance. But Mr. Speaker, I don't recall this House giving our powers to the Ministry of Finance to exercise on our behalf. This is a worrying trend, and I believe that it must not go without any consequences. Mr. Speaker, you recall that consistently over the last couple of years, the Minister for Finance, in preparation of the mid-year budget, has come to us that he is not seeking any further approval, and so he will only come and make statements. That presupposes that all the ceilings that have been granted them is what they are going to work with, and that they do not intend to exceed any ceilings. I agree that this ministry has been coming for approval for total expenditure that is very high, and so they feel that because they are not asking for further approval in the total sum, they can within the budget do any form of reallocation. That I think is unacceptable. We go through strenuous exercise in considering the budgets of the MDAs, and so if after all these they go and do what they want, what they like, I don't think it gives much meaning to the strenuous process that we go through as a House. So I'm calling on you that as a House we need to be firm on the approvals that we give to all the agencies under the various committees. Mr. Speaker, under paragraph 9.6, we also are told by your committee that they realized that there was delay in the disbursement of capitation grants to basic schools. And I know that it is not only to basic schools. Even second cycle institutions are suffering this fate. In fact, management of our schools today has become a very huge challenge. Our heads of institutions are not able to run the schools properly because they have nothing to work with. Even though we disapprove of the current trend of heads of especially second cycle institutions asking new students to pay an amounts that have not been approved by GES, we see that their failure to give them capitation grants and other resources they need to run the school is also contributing to what they are doing. And so we want to appeal to government that it is not enough that as of September this year, you have released only 18% of the amount of capitation grant that you need to be given to the institutions. With this, they are unable to run effectively. And so it is not enough to just come for a budget approval. The release of the funds to the various institutions for them to be able to run effectively is as equally as important as in the preparation of the budget. With this few words, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. Thank you.
At the conclusion of the debate, the leaders want to contribute very well. In that case, I'll take one from honourable member for Otafu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion ably moved by the Deputy Minister for Education, as stipulated under page 10, item number 19 of the order paper. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, let me indicate that in 2023, the Ministry of Education got an approval of an amount of 22,902,673,000 Ghana cedis. However, in 2024, the ministry is seeking for an approval for an amount of 29,514,197,713. Just because this is clearly an upgrade, if you like, of about 29% as compared to the 2023 approval. Mr. Speaker, per the 2023 performance, or if you like, program performance, the Ministry of Education ensured that about 8,782 teachers across the country were licensed. And so if you add that figure to the 2017, 2018, 2019 figures, it culminated to about 306,453. Mr. Speaker, once again, the ministry also ensured that to be able to demonstrate this commitment to promoting the culture of reading among the populace, the Ministry of Education, through the Ghana Library Authority, completed and commissioned about 5 new public libraries in 2023. Mr. Speaker, today if you go to the Eastern region, in Odan specifically, you find Christiana Akua Brago Diewo Library and Tech Hub. Mr. Speaker, today if you go to the Greater Accra region, around the airport, you find the National Children and Mobile Library also constructed. Today if you go to the Volta region, you find the Agoteme Petoi Community Library, also specifically situated in Agoteme. Mr. Speaker, today if you go to Adan here in the Greater Accra region, you find the Adan Fua Community Library, which has also been constructed by the ministry, and also the Kwakubuachi ICT and Learning Center in my own home region, situated in the Ashanti region, specifically the Traben. Mr. Speaker, once again, the National Service Scheme also ensured that about 179,309 service personnel that was in the 2022-2023 service year were enrolled and deployed. Per the 2024 outlook, we also look at about 122,000 and 17 personnel who are registered online and waiting for their deployment. Mr. Speaker, in promoting science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, in 2023, the ministry also continued the construction of 20 STEM centers across the country as part of government efforts to scale up STEM education across the country. Mr. Speaker, today, if you go to the Eastern region, the ministry have been able to complete and ready for operation the Abomusu STEM Senior High School, which is in the Eastern region. Today, if you go to the Northeast region, you will find the Kwansempe STEM Senior High School. You also find the Awaso STEM Senior High School, also in the Western North region. You will find the Bosompe STEM Senior High School, also in the Ashanti region. The Speaker, the ministry has also constructed the Bosompe Girls STEM Senior High School, also in the Ashanti region. Additionally, 2 STEM centers established in existing schools are ready for STEM education. Today, if you come to the Greater Accra region here, you find a STEM center at the Accra Senior High School. You are also going to find the Kumasi Senior High School also having its own STEM center in the Bono region. Mr. Speaker, in promoting the tertiary education, the ministry also ensured that about 90 students from UMAT and 106 also from the Pentecost University have also graduated from pre-engineering program. Mr. Speaker, looking at the 2024 outlook, the ministry intends to utilize the 29 billion that the ministry is seeking for this House to approve in finalizing and disseminating STEM policy, also in ICT in education policy, inclusive education policy, and guidance and counseling policy. Mr. Speaker, the ministry will also intend to finalize and disseminate, if you like, to continue with the implementation of the free senior high school education and also the TVET program. The ministry also intends to finalize and deploy the accountability dashboard. The ministry intends to organize the 2024 annual school census. The ministry also intends to utilize the amount that is seeking for the approval from this House by way of scaling up and monitoring the implementation of the Communities of Excellence program in all districts across the country. The ministry also intends to continue with the construction of STEM high schools, STEM centers, and model junior high schools. The ministry also intends to mainstream 21,000 out-of-school children under Ghana Education Outcomes Project. That is the GEO. Mr. Speaker, let me state that in ensuring that our education system moves to a higher pedestal, the ministry is seeking for this amount of money to be able to prosecute the agenda that has been debated upon by the Committee of the Education. And I pray that this House will approve the amount of 14,197,715. I so support the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support the motion. By doing so, let me raise some few observations here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I refer the House to Table 6, page 10. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note that the ministry has been allocated almost 30 billion Ghana cedis. 30 billion, 29.514 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, yes, the amount is going to go to various areas of education, basic education, second cycle education, non-formal, special education, and tertiary education. But one matter of significant importance to me, Mr. Speaker, is that even though the ministry has been allocated 29.5 billion Ghana cedis, only 673,429, the Speaker, under 1 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to special education. Special education. The Speaker, special education is something that we should take it quite serious as a country. Because, the Speaker, clearly there are a number of special schools in the country. But unfortunately, this budget is allocating less than 1 million Ghana cedis for special education, inclusive and special education. And I find that very interesting, and it's something that we should be interested in. In as much as we are allocating 7.7 million to tertiary education, basic education of 5.7 billion, second cycle education of 2.6 billion, non-formal of 106 million, but special education under 1 million Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, I think is something that we should be interested in and get the Ministry of Finance or the ministry to do some reallocation so that school for the deafs and any other special education will be adequately covered. Because less than 1 million Ghana cedis, not only school for the deaf, but a number, all the special education in the country, inclusive and special education, less than 1 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, I think is not good enough. They can do some reallocation from other parts to special education. But most importantly, even the under 1 million that they are giving, 673,000, is going to compensation. Only wages and salaries of the teachers. But they had goods and services, zero. There's no amount allocated for goods and services for inclusive and special education. Mr. Speaker, I think it's something that we should be interested in. Aside that, Mr. Speaker, I have seen as part of the report, Mr. Speaker, and I tried as much as possible to consult with the ranking member. And what I've noticed here is that Ghana, as we speak, we are no longer part of the West Africa School Certificate Examination. We are no longer part of the West Africa School Certificate Examination, largely because of the double track. Mr. Speaker, until we eradicate the double track system, Ghana will forever write the Ghana version of the West Africa School Certificate. And on that basis, it is very difficult for us to compare ourselves to our peers and neighboring countries that are writing the West Africa School Certificate Examination. Mr. Speaker, I would have thought that as part of the report, in as much as we are allocating huge sums of money for Ministry of Education, they would have given us a roadmap for us to eradicate the double track system. But strangely, I'm not seeing any roadmap here, even though we are allocating 29 billion Ghana cedis to the Ministry of Education to perform their functions for the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, this double track system needs to be eradicated one way or the other, and in a very quick way, so that we will be able to join our contemporaries who are writing the West Africa School Certificate Examination. Aside that, Mr. Speaker, I have seen also here, as part of the report, that government has constructed a number of libraries in order to promote the culture of reading among the population. But then again, the ranking member tells me that all these libraries that the government has, the ministry has outlined in paragraph 5, page 5, paragraph 7.3 of the report, are libraries that were not constructed by the state. They were mostly constructed by individuals and donor agencies, and not the state. But the way it has been couched here, it looks as if the Ghana Library Board or Ghana Library Authority has completed and commissioned 5 new public libraries in the year 2023. But I'm told that these are not activities of the Ghana Library Board. They were activities that individuals constructed it
and then handed over to the Ghana Library Board. So, Speaker, then this is information that I asked from the ranking member, and he said to me that these are not government projects. In fact, one of them was done by SNET, but you can say that SNET is a quasi-government agency. But what about the rest? The rest are not from SNET, they are from individuals. In fact, some of them are from communities. It's the communities themselves that have contributed money to construct these libraries. You can't claim ownership of it. Yes, you can say that you have handed over to the Ghana Library Board. I'm saying this because it is only right that we identify those who have put up this infrastructure and commend them, so that going forward they will be able to encourage others to also go through this. Mr. Speaker, I think even though there are few concerns, I think this report, Ministry of Education, supposedly has done what they are supposed to do in the year 2023. I've seen some of the expenditures they have made, and the allocation for 29.5 billion Ghana cedis for them to perform their functions needs to be approved. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. Thank you.
Yes, Chief Board.
Speaker, I sense the passion with which the minority leader speaks, especially about this library matter. First of all, Speaker, I speak in support of the motion, and it's a needless attempt of looking at who should take ownership of these projects. I am aware of a facilitation effort by government, especially in the construction of these libraries. Yes, private individuals played a role, but government also played a role. So it's not something we should split heads over. Minority leader, take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy. Now, Speaker, and for many of them, I know government facilitated the role of releasing lands to them. Speaker, let me commend the ministry on efforts towards the youth in developing reading habits. I think that is significant. For me, it's a very important effort, and we must encourage the ministry to do more in this regard. If our youth and our pupils will be encouraged to read, it will go a long way to help teaching and learning. So I urge them to continue on that tangent. I also see definite intervention in the area of TVET. America is where it is because of hands-on. And so it cannot be lost on us when it comes to TVET education. I know the country is replete with a number of centers, but can we do more? INSAOM is fortunate to receive some support. Again, that one was begun by a private person. Government has partnered a private person, just as they did for that library project. And that TVET center has been built and fully furnished. I think we can do more. We can build clusters and build more of such TVET centers to go a long way to help the program. So that page 9 of the report, I think item 9.0, submission of annual report. It may not be a significant point, but just to draw the minister's attention. Annual reports are supposed to be submitted timely. The regulations that ensure the establishment of the ministry and your agencies, it is not for nothing that these annual reports are needed. But if you read the report, it says you come lacking when it comes to timeous submission of these annual reports. So, Minister, we'll bring it to your attention that you should do something about it. Payment of utility bills at senior high schools. So if you read the report on that particular item, it says there are plans to drill more boreholes at various senior high schools. It's commendable though. But electricity provision, I am one person who strongly believes that if we can effectively buy into solar provision for these secondary school centers, we will win them off the national grid and will take a huge load of the national grid. It's something maybe the Ministry of Education can look at in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy. This is so important because if you look at the demands at these centers, it tells on the national grid, and we cannot just wish it away. So with these words, I want to commend the Minister and to urge the House to support the passage and appropriation of the said amount. Just to conclude on textbooks, not too long ago, it became a huge matter. I recall repeatedly hearing the ranking member talking about the provision of textbooks. Clearly captured in the report is some whooping 6 points. 6 million plus pupils have been supplied with these textbooks, even though there is more to be done. I urge the ministry, I encourage them first of all, and urge them to do more in this regard so that we can have the commensurate number that is required. So that with these words, I support the passage of the report. I thank you.
Speaker, just a minor matter which was raised by the minority leader, and it's in respect of the allocation to the special schools. It says that the allocation is just 1 million. It's less than 1 million. I don't want to believe that it's a typo error. I don't want to believe that. Speaker, and we have an allocation of some amount in excess of 100 million to non-formal education. Speaker, it used to be strong in the PNDC days, but respectfully, what do they do now? We need to spend more on the special schools, not the non-formal education. So I would want to plead that if we can do a reallocation from the non-formal education to the special schools, it should be good. At least maybe 20 million should be taken from it and given to the special schools. They can't live with this. There are so many of them dotted around the country. They can't live with the 1 million. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, you moved the motion. Our attention has been drawn to this apparent anomaly. Do you have anything to say that the special schools have been allocated only 600,000 Ghana cedis, is that right? Whilst non-formal education is allocated some 106 million. Do you have anything to say in respect of this concern? Otherwise, it is proposed that we make some arrangements, but I want to hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will go for Majority Leader's suggestion. So quickly, I'll inform Minister that we do the reallocation to ensure that their figure comes up. Thank you very much.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Minority Leader drew my attention to the 2024 budgetary allocation by programs and expenditure, page 10, and specifically on the item inclusive and special education. So to assure the Majority Leader that it's not even 1 million, it's 671,429 Ghana cedis. And Mr. Speaker, that's only in respect of compensation. So that means teachers will be paid, nothing more. Capex is zero, goods and services is zero. Now you have management and administration, compensation 9.4 million. You don't vary any person's compensation to the person's disadvantage. So let's take the 20 million from the goods and services for management and administration. So from the 3.8 billion, it is a recommendation of this House, if it has your pleasure, that we take 20 million and allocate it for goods and services and probably cater to cater for, as the leader observed, inclusive and special education. So we can take it from management administration because it doesn't affect their compensation budget. It doesn't affect, it only affects their goods and services. So we take 20 million out of it and allocate it. Other than that, if you go to school of the blind or you go to the school of the disabled, it means even water, if they need water to drink, it will be problematic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I support what the Honorable Haruna Idrisu just said. Mr. Speaker, this is because the non-formal education budget is largely on compensation. The compensation is 91.3 million, while goods and services is 14.6 million. Mr. Speaker, if we are to take 20 from the 14, they will have a negative. But clearly, the management and administration, which is at the highest level, GES, Ministry of Education, budget level, the Speaker, they have goods and services alone 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. So all what we need to do is out of the 3.8 billion Ghana cedis, give the special schools 20 million. Give the special schools 20 million so they can run the affairs of the children that are special. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's straightforward. Let's take 20 million from the 3.8 billion for the special schools, not for compensation, but to run it efficiently. These are special children, and it requires, they will require our attention. Mr. Speaker, I so move that we do the reallocation now. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I think that we are adding them as a house in expressing concern over this. Perhaps let's not pin it down to any allocation to be taken from it. I mentioned the figure 20 million from the top of my head. I don't even know whether this is exactly what they need or perhaps even more. So let's sound the ministry to do the needful by doing the relevant environment. I think that will be good. So we will want an assurance from the ministry, and just like the speaker did when we came to debating the principles of the budget, he did some instruction of the nodal issues that we brought out and communicated to the finance ministry. I think the same thing could be done. We require an assurance from her of a minimum allocation to the special schools, and then thereafter we shall do, the House will strand these ones out and forward it to the finance ministry that we require this to be done. And it should reflect in the Appropriations Act. Yes, Speaker, I think that will settle it. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the challenges we have right now is because of the way the estimates were presented. Because the goods and services allocated for all the schools, including special schools and the GES headquarters. So, and the GES headquarters, because they have the gift mix. So under the gift mix, they are the GES headquarters. So we will give you the details because they are well captured. It is not just for compensation, but we also have goods and services. We have feeding grants. And we also have CAPEX as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
In that case, should we defer the question on this matter or I'm looking at the procedure, how we can effectively do any environment. I'm looking at the study of this.
Respectfully, it cannot be done on the floor of the House. We are only sounding her to consult with the minister and do what is appropriate. Yes, Speaker, the issue that he has raised, with the greatest respect to the Deputy Minister, really will not hold. Because look at second cycle education. If he's saying that goods and services are captured under management and administration, look at second cycle education. They have 31 million. They have 31 million. So what he said really would not apply to second cycle. And the non-formal education, they have 14.6 million for goods and services. So it can't also apply. But we are sounding here that please go and do the proper environment. Let it reflect in appropriations. I think that will resolve it. I don't want for the House to insist that take it from non-formal, 20 million. As I'm saying, the figure is just on the top of my head. So you will go and do what is appropriate and let it reflect. If you think that 10 million is okay, so be it. If you think that the 20 million that I suggested is still low, I want to go 30 million, so be it. But let it reflect at the appropriate place so that the overall will not be affected. So with that assurance from you, if you have that assurance from you, we can move on. And then we can put a question. But we want assurance from the Deputy Minister, who is holding for the Minister. Deputy Minister, give us the assurance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I assure you on behalf of my minister that the right thing will be done, and it will spell out completely for everybody to know what has been done. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Very well. Upon that assurance, I'll put a question. As many as are in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This House has approved the sum of 29 billion 514 million 197,713 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Education for the year ending 31st December 2024. Yes, Honorable
Speaker, page 9, item 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I haven't called you. You only invited me to call that number. Very well. Item 15, motion by the Minister for Works and Housing. You may now move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this Honorable House approve the sum of 585,376,600 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Works and Housing for the year ending 31st December 2024. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman of the Committee.
Right now, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion ably moved by the Minister for Works and Housing that an amount of 600,376,600 right now, Speaker, with your kind permission, may I amend the allocation, budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Works and Housing from the amount quoted by the Minister for Works and Housing to Speaker, may I seek
Your indulgence. I related to colleagues and realized that the figure advertised in item 15 is not supposed to be the right figure, so it has to be amended. So may we go back for the minister to move the motion, and then in so doing amend the figure duly.
The motion has been moved already, so the Minister will seek leave to amend the figures as contained in the motion moved. Yes, leave granted. You may amend the figure so our records will record the correct one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I make reference to my motion earlier move and seek reference to amend the figures as follows. That the new figure should rather read 600,376,600 Ghana cedis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister will have to explain why he's amending the number, the budgeted amount to 600 million. Mr. Speaker, this is because I refer you to the budget statement, page 231, appendix 4A. MDA expenditure allocation 2024, infrastructure sector. Item 23, Ministry of Works and Housing, compensation of employees, goods and services, CAPEX, IGF, DP fund, subtotal and total. Mr. Speaker, the amount there in the budget is 585,376,600. Mr. Speaker, clearly, I don't know where he's getting the 600 million from, and he should show us how he's getting the extra amount, and the Ministry of Finance must explain that to us, because clearly what is in the budget is less than what he's asking Parliament to approve, and he should explain that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And where they are getting the excess money from, else at the end of the day the appropriations will not balance.
Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, I think the information that the minority leader seeks has been given to the committee and is contained in their report. So the report from the committee will provide a justification for it. And I agree with you that having done that, we should watch the ceiling of the appropriation so that we don't overshoot it. But I think it's been done already in respect of two sectors. Was it roads and transport? And I think agri. So they will go to affect the appropriations unless there is environment within the system. Otherwise, there could be some problem. So let's hear him out and then watch the ceiling in the appropriations.
Very well, Chairman. Yeah.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker. I second the motion ably moved by the Minister for Works and Housing that an amount of 600,376,600 Ghana cedis be approved for the annual budget of the ministry for the financial year ending 31st December 2024. Right, Honorable Speaker, with your kind permission, may I proceed to submit the report. Right, Honorable Speaker, your committee met and considered the budget estimates from the Ministry of Works and Housing, and after a long deliberation and discussion, we came out with a comprehensive report for the consideration of the House. Right, Honorable Speaker, the report ought to have been read to the House, but due to the constraint of time, I will ask the table office to record the report in its entirety, the answer to record the report in its entirety as same has been read by me. I will then proceed to the conclusion of the report. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee, after carefully considering the 2024 annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Works and Housing, hereby recommends to the House to adopt its report and approve an amount of 600,376,600 Ghana cedis for the programs and activities of the Ministry of Works and Housing for the financial year ending 31st December 2024, respectively submitted.
Yes. Ranking.
Sorry, I'm not the ranking, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion heavily moved by the Minister, especially the amended motion that asks this House that an amount of 600,376,600 Ghana cedis be approved by this House for the Ministry of Works and Housing for its works in the 2024 year. Mr. Speaker, the ministry appeared before us and its agencies appeared before us. One of the things that we noticed was the fact that, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the table 1 on page 4, there was an over-expenditure from the ministry. In fact, the initial budget for CAPEX in 2023 this year was 34,831,403 Ghana cedis. But the total expenditure as at October this year was 104,020,978 cedis. Mr. Speaker, an extra expenditure of over 298%. This did not come to the House for the House for ratification. We were in this house when the minister came with his revised estimate as a statement, not a mid-year review. And so for the ministry to vie or spend money more than what is budgeted for was something that we did not understand. And so we requested to find out why there was overpayment or expenditure in the year 2020. We were told that the ministry has to pay some bills, have to pay some debts that they owe contractors. But I think that this House approved 34 million. And so if you want to pay contractors, you should have come back to this House for this House to approve the additional expenditure for the contractors to be paid. Unfortunately, that did not come to this House. And that's the first thing that we noticed. The second one has to do with the confusion that we just saw on the floor when the minister had to revise his motion. As a matter of fact, the budget itself gave different figure, whilst in the appropriation or the estimate that was brought to us was different, and we were confused. Now, why would the budget be 598 and then over 15 million cedis was added to the budget as part of the estimate? Where were we going to get the money from as Parliament to approve it? And so we asked the ministry to go and do their homework well, and come back properly. Well, they told us that the ministry has given them, the Ministry of Finance has given them the go-ahead to increase the capex, so that what happened in this year will not happen again in 2024. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, the allotment or budgetary allocation to the Rural Housing Department is woefully inadequate. That department has been suffering for over years now. We really don't know whether that department should still be existing or not. I think something must be done. We should have conscious effort. The minister should take it upon himself to make sure he revives the Rural Housing Department, because that is the only department that can work effectively to bring in housing deficits in the rural areas. But allocation to those departments is just to pay for their salaries, and people go to work, they don't do anything. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to the ministry and to the Ministry of Finance that Department of Rural Housing should be adequately resourced. With this few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion and to indicate that the Ministry for Works and Housing deserves much better than the Ministry of Finance is allocating for them for the purpose of their projects and programs. And Mr. Speaker, specifically, let me just draw your attention to the committee's report, paragraph 9.2, protection of Ghana's coastline. The committee just said, committee took cognizance of the impact of climate change on the nation's coastline. So what are you doing as a ministry to protect the coastline? You are supposed to contract sea defense from Keta through Brekusu, through Axim, and the rest. Nothing is going on. So when you say you want to improve Ghana's coastline, it must reflect in tangible projects to protect the coastline. What you call your sea defense wall projects. So when you bring a budget here without any allocation for that, I am not convinced that you want to protect the coastline. So the Ministry of Finance should do better. Mr. Speaker, my other comment is on Saglame. In fact, I just called my lawyer to give me advice. Paragraph 9.8, and Mr. Speaker, is my considered view. I'm sure I've shared it with the minister before. This back and forth of Saglame, declare it a dedicated facility for the armed forces of Ghana and ask them to go and complete it and live in it. You cannot invest over $200 million in a project, and today you are still telling us that there was financial loss presumptively, or there is financial loss today, when your military are struggling for houses around that area. That is state resources. Whilst you do other things you want to do, give us Saglame housing to the Ghana Armed Forces and ask the military to go and complete it. They must provide labor. Nobody is going to pay them for it. I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, they will be happy to do that. But this back and forth, I'm not too comfortable with some of the comments in the committee's report. But advisedly, I've run away from it. Then, Mr. Speaker, uncompleted project, Minister. There are too many dotted uncompleted projects across the country. I came across one which was initiated by the Honorable Hakma Usuajima when he was at the ministry. In my constituency, around Sanjergo, in the Wamale area, a housing project was started. The Speaker is hanging. I'm sure the same thing happened in many other regions of Ghana. This country, that is why under the directive principles of state policy, the state is enjoined to complete uncompleted projects. I think that next time you should government, I think you should come with a profile telling us the location of this uncompleted project and how much you need to be able to deal with that. So, Mr. Speaker, generally, let me now come to the figures. How come that your ministry, IGF, you can't raise any money? So people occupying government houses and those that you are interested in selling out. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that public service workers, generally in Ghana, their problem is accommodation. I think some of the last timelines, we should dedicate it to public service workers. And Mr. Speaker, I say this because even as far back I then engaged Ebenezer Ampar Bank of the Public Sector Workers Union and the TUC. If you build and ask them that every man lose 200 to 500 and he knows that he has decent accommodation, he won't go paying those ridiculous 50,000, 100,000 in lieu of rent. So government should prime those lines to do high-rising buildings and stop selling it to ourselves. With this comment, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to the motion that this Honourable House approves the sum of 600,376,600 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Works and Housing for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, let me briefly touch on the State Housing Company. The State Housing Company is doing very well in the housing sector, but the fact is that their houses are no longer for the poor. Their houses are supposed to be affordable, Mr. Speaker, but as we talk, State Housing Company is into serious business. Their houses are priced in dollars. The least you can get from State Housing Company should be in above what the ordinary Ghanaian can afford. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that we should not concentrate on building houses for the middle class people. The fact about their business is that their houses are sold to expatriates and then people living abroad. And surprisingly, those living abroad, because they are able to mobilize and buy the houses, they then rent them out to Ghanaians who are struggling to survive. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to critically look at the housing sector. TDC is equally doing well, and they are also quoting their houses in dollars. You cannot be living in Ghana and struggling just even change cedis into dollars, change dollars into cedis, or we have to struggle to multiply before we are able to buy the houses. So they should simply price them in Ghana cedis so that the ordinary people do not have to struggle to look at the equivalence. Mr. Speaker, also, the Honourable Leader talked about the sea defence projects. Mr. Speaker, the year 2023, the Ministry was able to do only 0.6 kilometers of the sea defence projects. That is woefully inadequate. As a country, Mr. Speaker, if we really are determined to protect the people who live along the coastal area, we need to invest more in the protection of the people who live along the coastal area. Mr. Speaker, it's also clear that we over-concentrate on the cities, leaving the rural areas. Leader talked about the Department of Rural Housing. That department is almost collapsed. They don't have resources to work. We have people who are employed under that department, but there's nothing for them to do because they do not have budget to work with. And so, Mr. Speaker, we, those representing the rural people, as rural MPs, we have to cry loud for the government to empower the rural housing department so that they also turn around to take care of the rural areas. They can come out with simple houses that are affordable for people who live in the rural areas. And if they are able to do this, I think we, the rural MPs, would have also been serving our people. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by also stating that the Sagona Housing Project is a very important project. In 2017, we, those who were here, and served on the Western Housing Committee, we visited the project and we saw what it was. It was a great project. I still remember very well that the former minister, Honorable Tachia, his first press that he addressed regarding the Sagona Housing Project, he was very emphatic that that was one of the best projects ever. But Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, if you take time off and drive to the Sagona Housing Project, you would notice that an organized crime happened in that area. Because all the housing units in that project, every unit of the project has been touched. They have removed all the doors, they have removed all the windows, they have removed sinks, they have removed almost everything that was fixed in the housing project. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we should not sit down and allow our money go waste. Like leader said, something must be done seriously about the second housing project. If we think that as a government we do not want to invest in the project, let's look at how we can get other agencies or companies to come in. But we should not think about selling it to a private person. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to make this brief statement.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, all in favor of the House adopting the report, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. This House has approved the sum of 600,376,600 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Works and Housing for the financial year ending 31st December 2024. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, page 3, item 6BI. Speaker, just I. 6BI.
Very well. Item 6BI, by the chairman of the committee. Yes.
Report of the Special Budget Committee on the annual budget estimate of the Electoral Commission for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The report is duly laid for distribution to members. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, may we turn to other paper addendum and take all the items, the A and B. Speaker, I'll seek your leave.
Very well. Other paper addendum, presentation and first reading of bills. Yes, by the Minister for Finance. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, if you may indulge me, I want to do the presentation of these bills, the two, on behalf of the Minister for Finance.
Very well. You may do so.
An act to amend the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, to revise the rates of income tax for individuals. An act to impose an emissions levy on carbon dioxide equivalent emissions from specified sectors and internal combustion engine vehicle emissions, and provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the Income Tax Amendment Bill number 2, Bill 2023, and the Emissions Levy Bill 2023 are hereby read for the first time and referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Yes.
Speaker, thankfully, many of our reports are ready, but it's the case that ranking members and chairmen are not available, so we are unable to prosecute them now. So, having regards to the time, Speaker, we are in your hands. So, but we've exhausted all we plan to do.
Very well, honourable members. I'll bring proceedings to a close, but let me remind members of the Appointments Committee that tomorrow the public hearing will start at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. We encourage all members of the Appointments Committee to be on time so we can get done with them as quickly as possible. Thank you. On that note, the House is adjourned to Wednesday, 20th December 2023 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.